Welcome to the Mango Effect podcast, where every Monday we explore a range of ideas and inspiration that all culminate in designing the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindy Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about the dancing monkey. You're like, Mindy, okay, I saw the title. The what? The freaking dancing monkey. Yes, the dancing monkey. So on my desk, if you come to my house, you will see this little bobblehead that is a little monkey with a cute little banana. And every time you put him in the sun, he starts dancing and he just kind of like wobbles from side to side. You know, you've seen like those bobbleheads in the back of cars and things that kind of drive you crazy when you're behind them because they just kind of bobble up and down. Well, this little monkey just dances like that when he's in the sun. So you take him out of the sun, no dancing. You put him in the sun, and there he goes. And so I think when I look at my little dancing bobblehead monkey, there's a story behind it. I will get there. I think a lot of us do feel like dancing monkeys a lot of the time. And people think it's just easy to get up and start talking or performing or doing what we do best. But it's really not that simple. And so we're going to get real today about the dancing monkey and how we can actually use that to our advantage, how we can prepare, how do we perform, what does that look like, and yes, dancing monkey talk today. So this dancing monkey on my desk, how it came to be was I was struggling at the time with long COVID, and I know I'm not alone in this. I'm sure many of you have experienced it yourself, or maybe you have relatives who've experienced it. And basically, long COVID is like an autoimmune disorder that just kind of like doesn't go away. And that's how I would describe it from my perspective. So about 18 months of time after I got COVID in like August of 2020. And it was just really challenging because I was at a critical point in my career and I really wanted to do more, but my body said no. And so during that time, it was incredibly difficult even just to do my normal calls, to do my live streams, to do anything client related that required me on camera. And even if I wasn't on camera, but I had a lot of strategic work to do, the brain fog was real. So it was really, really challenging. So my husband, he was looking at me one day and he's like, he's like, you could be lying on the floor like 2 minutes before a live presentation. But then as soon as the lights come on, it's like, there goes Mindy. There she goes. She's dancing. And nobody knows that you were just like lying on the floor. And as soon as you're done talking, you're going to lie back on the floor and recuperate for another hour. So it was kind of this joke and kind of a running joke in the family. So he's like, I'm going to get you a dancing monkey. So every time that you are thinking you can't do it, you can look at this little monkey on your desk and realize that all you need to do is put it in the sun and there it starts dancing. And so I think this was a really lighthearted way to deal with the situation that was, pretty traumatizing at the time because I am a fitness person. I've always been a health nut. I'm always exercising all the time. Like my perfect day is 2 to 3 hours of exercise, making sure that there's a surf, a weightlifting session in there, a sauna session, a stretch, mobility, ROMWOD, all of these fun things. So that's my idea of a great day. And when I was like getting exhausted by just getting up and talking on camera, it was very demotivating. So I think sometimes we have to take like this lighthearted look at a very tough circumstance. And when we just look at it through a different lens or maybe make a joke around it, it can really help. So my dancing monkey is still on my desk and my long COVID is no longer present and it is fantastic. It took me a long time to get through it, but I still like the dancing monkey. And this metaphor, it continues to stick with me because not every day do I wake up and think, yeah, I cannot wait to teach my next, program of the LinkedIn Accelerator. I've taught it a bazillion times and here I go teaching it again. So sometimes we have to psych ourselves up for the things that we know we should be doing because there are people out there that we can help, that we can encourage, that we can inspire. And sometimes we just don't feel like doing it, but we still got to do the dance. And so I think that's a really good metaphor for life. So tenacity, persistence, I think in the face of adversity can be definitely one of our strengths. when we know how to use it and when to use it. But I think the downside of all of this is if we are pushing ourselves to dance all the time and we never take breaks, then we are going to break, and we're going to break our bodies. We're going to break our minds. We are not going to be at our best. So I think there's like this delicate dance, another rhythm, like to the performance that we have to consider as we are, doing our performance, as we are dancing in life, as we are dancing in our work, dancing in our profession. Another story, like related to the dancing monkey, when I first got started as an entrepreneur, and I was actually kind of on my own. I wasn't like working underneath someone as a contractor. So when I started actually doing my own business and taking sales calls and working with other agencies, that was a really challenging time for me. I don't know if you're like me, but if you're very introverted or even just a little bit introverted, it can be extremely challenging to hop on a call with somebody you don't know, even somebody you do know, because of the interaction with people can be very, very draining. And so for me, it was a real challenge to learn how to have these conversations without having a panic attack. Like I would almost have panic attacks. And my husband's like, it's just a call. Like you've talked to these people like a dozen times and you are still freaking out. Like what is wrong with you? But I think comes along with having confidence in your career and developing proficiency in your work. But it did take me years before I could not have a panic attack or feel incredibly stressed before a Zoom call. And I finally can handle these, I think, pretty seamlessly. Like they don't stress me out anymore. I actually get kind of excited before a phone call, especially if it is like a sales call or I get to collaborate on a project in my zone of genius. But it didn't happen overnight. And so if you are feeling like, Mindy, you make it look so easy, like you can get up there and just talk. Or, I see other people in my space that they just turn on the camera and boom, like they are just saying all the right things. They don't stumble over their words. It's just so smooth. I wish I could talk like that. It takes time and it takes a lot of practice. And I think a lot of us need to realize that there are the early days that come with that confidence, and you have to get through those early days and you have to kind of fumble around. You have to get through those panic attacks. I taught fitness for a little while before I got into entrepreneurialism. And I was a fitness instructor. I was the worst fitness instructor. Seriously. I really was. Like I have no rhythm when it comes to like exercise movements and music. And I taught at a retirement village. So the music, I didn't even understand the music. It's like really oldie stuff. And I was trying to teach more elderly people how to exercise, and I'm like this 23-year-old trying to teach this class. And some days I would literally go in the bathroom like 5 minutes before the class and lie on the floor because I was freaked out about teaching this class. So there were a lot of moments of like performance anxiety that I faced. But I think after I taught the class, I was not the greatest instructor, like I said. People would come up to me and say, Mindy, I just wanted to see your smile today. And I really resonated and was so happy by your energy. And yeah, my rhythm is not great. Do I do the most exciting movements? Probably not. But I think showing up in mustering the energy and mustering the face, sometimes we just have to kind of muster it up. But then there's also the part where we need to recuperate and recover. And then we need to look at the situation and feel like, is this a place where I should be performing? And I think that was a question I had when I was in the fitness realm. It was not the place where I felt that I was performing my best. And so I did make that shift to more of an online conducive environment for an introvert like me, instead of, being on stage dancing to, oldies music, trying to get people excited about exercise. So I think there are ways that we can learn from our performances, and whatever way that we're performing, whether you're an athlete, whether you are a mom, whether you're a dad, whether you are staying home with your kids, maybe you're a grandparent and you are, raising little ones, whatever that situation is for you, you need to think through, I think, how you are showing up and how you're performing on a daily basis. And if something is off, then maybe add a little bit of lightheartedness to it, like I did with the dancing monkey on my desk, or assess and realize, is this the right move for me? Should I be performing in this way? Is there a better place for me to perform? Is there a better way that I could be performing? And a lot of that takes introspection and some of us are very uncomfortable with that introspection, or we're afraid, and we have to go deep. Like, we have to ask ourselves those hard questions. And if you're not asking yourself those hard questions, you're never going to uncover the innate performer that is in you that needs to be out there shining. And I sincerely believe that every single person should be performing in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be in front of a large audience. It doesn't have to be as a professional athlete. It doesn't have to be as a high-powered CEO or careerist. It doesn't have to be as the most successful entrepreneur, but you are still performing in your personal life. You're still performing in your professional life in some way, shape, or form. And you get to dictate what that looks like. You get to choose how you're going to perform. And I take that very seriously. To me, it is like dedication to my craft to show up and get better at performing. And it takes a lot of work. But you know what? It is worth it, especially if just one person is affected by your performance. Even if you have to lie on the floor before that performance, get up and do it, and then lie on the floor afterwards, it is still worth it. And that's what I realized. I realized for me, I'm like, okay, I am in the right space. Like, I know right now that I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing at this point in time. I'm supposed to be teaching people how they can use LinkedIn better. I'm supposed to be inspiring them to fill their sales pipelines in the right way. I'm supposed to be out there helping them get conversations with their ideal clients. As a professional, that is my job and that is my calling right now. And I feel like over time that will probably shift. But for right now, that is my mission. And if I am delivering on that to my audience, to my people, and there's a cost to that delivery, that's okay. That's what we all have to realize, is there is a cost. And it isn't just like flawless and seamless. Like, we see people hopping on TED Talk stages and we think, oh, they just make it look so easy. They just get up there, give a talk, and then the money rolls in. It's like, no. Like, we don't see the behind the scenes. We don't see them struggling. We don't often hear about it. Some of them will get vulnerable and share that with us, but a lot of us will never truly understand all that they had to go through to get to that point, to affect people at the level that they knew they were called to affect people at. And so think about that. It's like, okay, Mindy, I get it. So sometimes I need to be a dancing monkey. And so what does that actually look like for me? Is it just having a just do it mentality that if we're not just doing it, we're a failure, so we actually never get on stage? Or do we need to figure out, okay, first of all, I need to figure out where I should be performing and where I should be a spectator. And I think there's a big difference here. Like, I am not always a performer, even when I'm on camera. When I'm hopping into, for example, when I'm hopping into a group coaching program and I could raise my hand and get a hot seat, I usually don't. It's very rare for me to raise my hand unless I have a really good question. I really like the person that's, the coach of the day. I have a clear objective and I feel really comfortable getting vulnerable in front of that group of people. So for me, it is very, very challenging to do that, and I don't do it very often. But if you see me on stage and I'm actually giving a talk or a presentation or a live stream or a workshop, I'm pretty engaging and I don't mind the spotlight at all. And I have a blast. So I know when I need to perform and I know when I need to be an audience member, and I know what I'm out to get in each situation. As a performer, I'm out there to inspire, encourage, and share my expertise. As an observer, I am there to learn. I'm there to observe. I'm there to take notes. I'm there to kind of figure out what's going on and how I can apply what I'm learning as an audience member to my life and to my business. So we don't have to always be performing. And I see people take this to both extremes. Some people always stay in the audience and they never get out of the audience. It's like, okay, I'm going to watch that person. Oh, that was great. Clap, clap, clap. And it's like you get so comfortable as an audience member that you never actually get on stage. Or I've seen other people that are like, oh, somebody told me that I need to be performing all the time. I need to be selling all the time. I need to be marketing myself all the time. I need to be driving forward. And so they're always raising their hand and they're, it's like sometimes you're like, you probably should just sit this one out, right? It's like perform in your areas of expertise and then know when it's not time for you to perform. So understanding that, and I think it just comes with time, comes with experience, it comes with knowing yourself, and it comes to just a very clear life vision. If you know what your life vision is, then you kind of align all of your activities around that. You align your performances, you align the times where you're an audience member around what your life vision is. So every activity you're engaging in, whether you're a performer, whether you're an audience member, whether you're somebody off stage, kind of in the support crew, you are there to be a part of the experience, but from the way that you want to experience that is kind of how I would say that. So if you want to be a high achiever, and I know a lot of you do, sometimes people don't admit it, but a lot of you do want to get a lot out of life. You've got to learn to embrace your inner dancing monkey at the right times. And there's no way that you can live your life off stage or backstage or in the audience and expect to get the rewards of someone who steps into the light to share their message. And we've heard people like Brene Brown talk about this and the power of vulnerability and, daring greatly, and you have to get into the arena and actually share your message. So I've met so many amazing people who simply never come out from backstage. A lot of them are introverted. Some of them are not, though. Some of them are extroverted. And I want to encourage them. It's like you have these conversations over and over again. Like, just go for it. Just like your performance doesn't have to be perfect. But nobody but a few people will ever hear your powerful story or message if you don't start dancing. And sometimes your dance is not going to look like somebody else's. Your performance is not going to look like someone else's. But it's important that you get out there and try. It's important that you actually get out there and perform and do what you are called to do. So here are a few steps that I like to call them when I'm thinking about a performance or a presentation or even just going to a social event, because I'm an introvert, so social events are not always my thing. But I like to think of the different steps. So I like to prepare before I do a performance. I like to really be aligned and kind of in tune with what's going on during the performance, and then the recuperation after the performance. So let's talk about each of these stages. So the preparation. This, I think, is one of the most important parts of the dance, of the performance for me. And I actually create my entire day around the different performances that I have coming up for that day or for that week. So I look at my entire week, I look at my month, and I really am thoughtful about how much energy each performance is going to take and how much downtime I need before, how much downtime I need after, what activities should I be doing before and after to really make the dance something that I can just relax into. So it takes a lot of thought, and there's a lot of trial and error that comes with this as well, because you're really trying to figure out your rhythm. And as you can read as many books as you want to about creating the perfect morning or the perfect day or the perfect regimen, but you still have to adjust it for yourself. So figure out what that flow looks like for you throughout the week, throughout the month, and really think about how you can prepare before the dance. Like for me, when I am presenting, I know I'm at my best in the morning. So it's actually really good that I live in Hawaii, because a lot of times I am talking in the morning. So most people are like, man, I'm just barely out of bed by the time you're up there speaking and giving a presentation. But that's just because of the type of person that I am. I like to get up early in the morning. I like to do my dancing, my performing in the morning. And then I like the afternoons to be kind of chill and downtime. I don't like to talk in the afternoons. Don't ask me to give a presentation at 2:00 in the afternoon. It's just not going to happen. So you have to know when your good performance time is, and then you're creating everything else in your life around that. So you're making sure that you get enough sleep. You're making sure that you have a nice morning routine if that works for you. You make sure that you have your coffee and the breakfast that makes you feel fantastic, that you have support around the house if you have little ones, like I have a couple kids. And it's really important that you set yourself up for success, and that preparation is so, so important. You can't expect yourself to be your best if you don't prepare for it and you don't treat it like this is a performance. I don't care if there's 5 people there. I don't care if there's 1 person there. You're still going to prepare for that performance as if it is the most important part of your day, because it is. All right, so let's talk about during the performance and like, what are you doing here? So for me, you can hear in my voice, I like to talk fast. So when I get excited or I'm enthusiastic about something, I talk super, super fast. So for me, it's learning to slow down and like be present in the moment. And sometimes I get in my head and I start analyzing what I'm doing in the moment. And that can be hilarious, cause I'm like, brain, stop. Just be here, be present, be in the moment. And it's also about modulating your energy levels. So if you're a high energy person, you may need to tone it down and just figure out ways to take a breath. Like for me, it's like, okay, remember to breathe, Mindy. Don't run over all your words. Don't talk at 2x speed for people. And also it's getting feedback from your audience. So if you have a live audience, they are kind of critical to your process because they let you know by their body language, by their feedback, even if it's on a Zoom call, you can see people and how they're reacting to your words. And you can tell like if they get confused or like, maybe I'm going too fast. Maybe I need to go back over that topic. So they are a nice little mirror for you to help you with your performance. So pay attention to your audience. Don't get so stuck in your head that you're not paying attention to the people that are participating in your experience, in your event. And then for those of you who feel like I'm on the lower energy end of the spectrum, you may need to pep yourself up before performance. For me, I try to tamp myself down because if I get too excited, then I just am like the Energizer Bunny. Oh, there she goes. So for me, I need to like tamp it down, nice and calm. But if you are kind of a tranquil person by nature, you may need to play some peppy music before your event. Move around, do some dancing, do whatever you need to do to get yourself excited so you don't kind of show up deadpan. You're talking and you're like, I think everybody's falling asleep. Or maybe my voice is just a little too calm. So you have to think about this. Think about your style. Think about the type of person that you are and how can you perform best. And always look for feedback. Like I always ask for feedback and sometimes it's hard to hear, but it's actually quite helpful. Like the feedback I tend to get is, Mindy, you talk too fast. Mindy, you need to go a little bit deeper there. Mindy, that was a lot in one sentence. Like, come on, like explain that a little more repetition, please. So I think these are all important cues for us to take back and go, okay, the next time I talk about that or the next time I'm on stage and performing, I can use that feedback. All right, so we talked about before, what to do before, talked about what to do during, and now let's talk about what do you do after the dance, after the performance. So this part is important because we need downtime. And sometimes we're riding a high. Like if I have a really good performance, I'm usually like, yeah, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, that was so awesome. I just want to go tell my husband, like, come here, I got to tell you all about this. And I usually do that first because if it was good, then I feel like so empowered and enthusiastic and happy. And so there's a way to process those emotions. So do that celebration, do that process. Some people just like, oh, that was great. And they kind of just go back to what they were doing. I like to celebrate. So after the performance, celebrate, like enjoy and relish that moment. And if you had insights, you're like, oh, I have this takeaway. It's at the top of my brain. I should write this down. Write it down. So take some time to process those emotions. Write down anything that's top of mind for you afterwards and enjoy that moment. And then you want to think about making sure that you are getting enough downtime. You don't want to do back-to-back performances if you can help it. And sometimes it just works out in the schedule where it's like, okay, well, here we go again. I got another one to do, like back to back. So if you can help it, try not to do them back to back. And if you have to do them back to back, just make sure you have enough energy and you have downtime afterwards, because that's going to be critical to the recovery process. And I'm an introvert. So for me, I need a lot of alone time. So once I do the celebration, it's like, okay, let me just go do some like brainless work, or let me go journal for a little bit. Let me go surfing. Let me go do something that just kind of gets me back into my body and helps ground me a bit. And for me, that's physical exercise. That is, going out into nature. That can be journaling. That can be, just doing some mundane work that doesn't require a lot of my brain. Now, if you're extroverted, like some of my friends, you may want to go out and celebrate with people afterwards. You maybe want to be around more people and just kind of take that momentum with you. So figure out what is going to work best for you for your recuperation phase, and make sure you get enough of that time before your next performance. So it's critical that you do recuperate, that you don't keep riding that high, because you will run yourself into the ground. So preparation before, be present during the dance, and then get enough recuperation after the dance. So I like to stage my performances at intervals where I know I can be my best. So sometimes life will still happen, but I do my best to plan around the inevitable, I would call them speed bumps on my calendar. Think anniversaries, birthdays, doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, like these types of things. I try to make sure that they're not scheduled into my calendar in a way where I'm going to be rushing or feel like, oh, there's too much in a day. I like to plan them out in advance. And I almost like to think of my performances as surfing. Okay, you're going to hear a lot of surfing metaphors from me, just so you know. So I think of it as surfing a heat. So if I was a pro surfer, which I'm not, so I'm still trying to catch baby waves right now. But if you're unfamiliar with surfing, there's when pro surfers go out, there's a 25 to 45 minute time chunk where they are on the clock and they're expected to surf their best waves, and usually they want their top 2 waves, so 2 waves, in that time chunk against 1 to 3 other competitors in the water. So nothing else matters in the day for them but preparing for that heat. And every surfer has a different warm-up routine. And it's really fascinating. If you're watching them, especially I love it when they put them on camera before the heat, you can see how they each prepare. There's some people that are like bouncing on the beach. They're doing like squats, they're jumping, they're lunging. There's people that have headphones on with like music pumping and you can see them like shaking their head. There are other people who look like they're just like meditating. They're just like super calm and like serene and they're just studying the waves. There's others who look like incredibly strategic where they're like studying everything. You can tell that they're talking to their coach. So it's like everybody has a different way to be at their best before a heat, but they've all found and tested and tried out different ways until they figured out what worked for them. And I think we have to treat ourselves the same way. Treat your performance as if you are a pro that's ready to paddle out into the waves. Sometimes those waves are going to be really small and you'll have to get like really scrappy to get points on the board. Other times they might be heavy, perfect, and dangerous, and you'll have to take your chances to get the best wave of your life. So you're always treating your performances in a different way. You are strategic. You're preparing for them. And then afterwards, when you paddle back in, no matter if it was a great heat or it was like terrible and you didn't make it to the next round, you have to figure out how you are going to cope with that. Like, is it, okay, I'm going to celebrate, or I need to keep my game face on because I've got another heat because I just advanced? Or is it like, okay, I totally sucked in that heat and now I have to kind of go back to the drawing board, figure out what to do, get my mindset right. So it's a game. It's always this game that we are playing as performers. And we have to figure out what is going to work best for us. What is our formula? So in conclusion, let's wrap it up for today. Where in your life do you feel like a dancing monkey? Like, how can you improve your performance there? There's probably something that has come to mind as I was talking, like, yep, this is mine. This is definitely mine. So is it about the preparation before, the part during when you're actually performing, or is it really figuring out your recuperation afterwards? I would absolutely love to hear your take on the topic. So feel free to DM me on Instagram at Mango Effect Podcast, because we're all performers to some degree. I don't care if you're a stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home dad, if you're a CEO of a big company, if you're a scrappy entrepreneur, a freelancer, whatever you're doing in life, you're performing in some way, shape, or form. And so you should take that performance seriously. You should put your heart into it. You should give it your all, and you should treat yourself accordingly. So let's inspire each other as we are going through these performances of life. So if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Mango Effect Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. I'd absolutely love it if you could write a 5-star review for the show. We are a new show, so any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. All right, I will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Bye for now.